This is a story from Poland. It's called The Jester Who Fooled a King. A very long time ago, Poland was ruled by a king called Jan. He had a splendid court, lots of courtiers, servants and ladies-in-waiting, and he had a jester called Matenko. A jester is what we would call today a comedian, someone who makes everyone around him laugh. Now, Matenko had been a great favourite for many years with the king's household, but unfortunately he was now very old, and his wits were not as sharp, and he wasn't so funny, and people didn't laugh at him much any more. The lords and ladies yawned when he told his jokes and said he was a bore, and told the king it was time to get rid of him. But the king was very fond of him and felt sad about it. He didn't really want to get rid of his old friend, but what could he do? A jester who doesn't make people laugh isn't really a jester. So one day he put his arm round his shoulder and said, "Matenko, my dear old friend, the time has come for you to retire. I'll give you a little cottage in the village and a few gold crowns. Afraid we haven't got much money. The last state ball left us almost bankrupt. And you and your wife can live out your years in peace." Matenko was heartbroken. He had enjoyed his life at court so much. He loved the glitter, the comings, the goings, all the visitors. He loved the great banquets and feasts. He loved being the centre of attention. He and his wife packed their belongings and walked sadly and silently down to the little cottage. It wasn't very long before the poor old couple were penniless, and of course Matenko couldn't get another job because all he knew about was being a jester. They were very worried and racked their brains as to what they should do to earn some money for food. One night Matenko suddenly had a very good idea. He tapped his wife on the shoulder.
"Are you awake, Elzunia, my dear?"
he said. "Yes, Matenko, what is it? Are you all right?"
"Yes, I've had a very good idea. Tomorrow you must go to the Queen and tell her that I am dying, and that you are penniless and left all on your own, and you don't know how you're going to live."
"Oh, what a splendid idea! Oh, husband, you are clever," said Elzunia. So the next morning they got up, and the old lady dressed in her poorest rags, and laughingly said, "I suppose I ought to look sad if you're supposed to be dead."
"Well, why not rub your eyes with some onions?" said Matenko. "And you look as if you've been crying for hours and hours."
Yes, what a splendid idea. That's exactly what I shall do." She went out into the little garden and pulled up a couple of onions and sliced them. My goodness, they did make her eyes water. By the time she arrived at the palace, rubbing a little onion to her eyes every few minutes, she looked as if she'd been crying for several nights, let alone hours. She knelt down before the Queen and pretended to cry. Really, it looked exceedingly convincing with the onion tears pouring down her face. "Oh, Queen, have mercy on me," she said. "My dear husband, the jester who made you laugh so many times, has died, and I'm left alone, friendless, with no children to support me and no money, and I don't know what I'm going to do." The Queen, who had always liked Elzunia, took pity on her and asked one of her ladies-in-waiting to hand her a purse. She took a little bag of golden coins and gave them to Elzunia and said, "Poor woman, here, take these coins. Give your husband a decent funeral, and see that you have enough food and warm clothes to keep you until you join him in heaven." "Oh, thank you. You're such a good Queen," said the old lady, bowing her way out. She almost ran all the way home. What a wonderful trick it had been. Old Matenko was terribly pleased with her. She had done very well. It's easy. It's too bad you can't die every day," she said, laughing and kissing her old husband.
"Now," said Matenko, "I think it would be a good idea if you died and I'll go to the king."
"Oh, do you think we ought to?" said the old lady.
"Why not? I worked for him for 50 years. Surely he can keep me in my old age.
So the following day the old clown cut up some onions, rubbed them in his eyes, and made his way to the palace. Soon he was brought before the king. He walked across to the great throne and knelt down, his old bones creaking.
"Oh, your highness, gracious majesty, me dear wife has flown up to heaven, and I'm left alone on earth penniless with no one to look after me. Please help me, for I'm a feeble old man."
The king had always loved Mitenko, and he drew a big purse full of coins from his pouch and gave it to him, saying, "Dear Mitenko, it's lovely to see you again. Here, take this money. See your wife has a decent funeral, and get some good soul from the village to come to your cottage and cook you a meal each day and clean your house."
"Oh, your majesty," said the sly old clown, "you are good and kind. May God bless you."
And he creaked his way out of the throne room, and then galloped on his old shanks back to the cottage.
Look, Elzunia, look what I've got. Enough for us to live comfortably for the rest of our lives. How fortunate and how clever we are."
They skipped around their little kitchen table, throwing the coins in the air and shrieking with glee. Then suddenly Mitenko thought a very serious thought. If the king and queen talked to each other about what had happened, they would realize that they'd been cheated. And of course he was quite right. At the palace the most terrible argument was going on. "Mitenko is dead," said the queen, "and he has left a poor widow." "Nonsense," said the king. "It's Elzunia who's dead. She's left the poor Jester." "Well," said the queen, "Elzunia was here yesterday, and she said it was Mitenko who was dead." "Rubbish," said the king. "I've only just left Mitenko." And so it went on and on and on. And finally the carriage was ordered, and the royal party set off down to the village to find out exactly who was dead. The old clown saw them coming down the hill and said to his wife,
"Quickly, we must both pretend to be dead. Come along."
"Dead? We don't look as if we're dead."
"Put some flour on your face."
"Flour on my face? Whatever do I want flour on my face for?"
"To make you look as if you're dead."
They powdered each other's faces with flour and lay down on the bed and pulled a white sheet over themselves, having lit a candle at each corner of the bed, and lay there shaking and giggling. There was a fanfare of trumpets. The king and queen had arrived outside their little house. Mitenko and Elzunia lay under the sheet, shaking so much with the giggles, and the tears of mirth were running down their floured faces.
"For heaven's sake, stop laughing," said Mitenko. "Try and look as if you're dead."
"I'll stop laughing when you stop laughing," said Elzunia. "You're making me shake all my flour off. Stop it, for goodness sake." The king and queen entered the little cottage and looked sadly at the bed. "Our dear old friends," said the queen. "I wonder which of them died first."
"Well, actually, I did,"
said Mitenko, sitting up. "Lie down, you old fool!" shrieked his wife, whacking him on the head with a pillow. "You villain!" said the king. "You tricked me. Get up at once and tell me what you mean by this disgraceful behaviour." Mitenko rose from the bed looking very ashamed, white floury face, all little runnels with tears of laughter.
"I'm awfully sorry, Your Majesty. We really didn't have any money left. You didn't give me very much when you sacked me. So, well, yes, we did play a trick on you to get some more."
A tiny snigger escaped from the queen. The king clapped his hand over his mouth, but out came a great guffaw, and the courtiers, seeing the king laughing, all burst out laughing too. "Why, Mitenko," roared the king, "that's the funniest joke you've ever played. Come back to the palace and be our jester again. I never realized how much I missed you." So they all set off back up the hill together, laughing all the way.